President Trump may want to build the wall, but he seems really keen on tearing down NAFTA. Remember this from the campaign?
We are going to stop the TPP, totally renegotiate NAFTA, one of the worst trade deals ever made by mankind.
That speech was very Sharpton esque. Well, it appears the president is going to follow through on that pledge, taking to Twitter this morning, tweeting, "I received calls from the president of Mexico and the prime minister of Canada asking to renegotiate NAFTA rather than terminate. I agreed." Subject to the fact that if we do not reach a fair deal for all, we will then terminate NAFTA. Relationships are good. Deal very possible. Is the president making the right move? And what exactly is going on here? For clarity, I turn to Associate Professor of Economics at the King's College. It's Brian Brenberg. This is Brianomics. So we were going to tear up NAFTA, but now the president, yes, has benevolently agreed to renegotiate the entire thing because it is somehow going to protect American jobs. What is the truth here?
Well, I don't know what they're actually going to renegotiate. I mean, this really seems like we got to get this in within the first 100 days to make good in the campaign promise. So the timing of it seems to point to that. In terms of what they're going to renegotiate, I don't really know. He hasn't been specific at all about that. It's good not to tear it up, but I hope what he doesn't do is continue to make the promise that renegotiating NAFTA is somehow going to create this new renaissance in manufacturing jobs in the United States. We are asking too much of the NAFTA repeal to create these jobs. It cannot do that. Jobs from 50 years ago, 40 years ago aren't coming back. We've got to create new jobs. We're not going to bring them back. NAFTA can't do that.
Okay, is there any way we could use free trade, particularly with Mexico and Canada, to bring back or create a new series of jobs?
Well, there is room to improve NAFTA. There's no question about that. There are still barriers in place to trade. I mean, Mexico makes a stink about electrical components coming into the country. Canada does the same thing with poultry and dairy. There's all these little margins. You can make an improvement. But if we're looking at NAFTA reform the same way we're looking at tax reform or health care reform to really move the economy forward, it's simply not going to happen because there are bigger forces at play here. We've talked about them on the show before. Automation is the thing that has transformed manufacturing. Even if you scrap NAFTA, it's not going to bring those jobs back because U.S. companies have to compete internationally. And if the labor costs here are high, they're going to automate that work.
And that's a point that you make, is that American companies have to compete with foreign companies for foreign customers. And if we become more and more protectionistic, it's very difficult to do that.
Look, it's not. The growth in the world is happening overseas in terms of consumer base, where you're going to sell your product. And it's not just U.S. companies competing for those customers. It's companies in China. It's companies in India, the BRIC countries. If our companies can't compete on cost with those companies, it's not going to happen. They're not going to grow. They're going to decline. So they have to be able to do that. And look, I mean, technological innovation helps us to do that. We have to have a workforce that's able to work in that kind of economy. We're talking so much about trade here. We should be talking much more about labor rules that make it difficult to start and grow a business. We should be talking about our educational system to make sure that our workers are able to compete, to work in these kinds of high-tech industries.
And adaptation. You know, because obviously the world is changing so quickly, and you don't have to be a globalist to recognize that, but you certainly should want Americans to compete and you want Americans to compete, and you want us to have an administration and lawmakers who are forward-looking.
Well, all of this stems, and this is a legitimate concern. People want to have a livelihood. They want to work. They want to earn a wage. They care about that. Somebody has come along and said to them, NAFTA is the reason you can't do that anymore. And I understand that inclination, but we have to look at the data. We have to look at reality and say, what's really driving job loss? What's really driving opportunity? And the answer is, it's not really these trade agreements, it's other forces. And so if we can be clear-eyed about the problem, then we can be clear about the solution. But these ideas of a turn-back-the-clock economy don't work. All that does is regress living standards. And you don't have to look far for that. You look at Venezuela and you see examples of an economy where the government steps in and says, we're going to protect things, and the result is actually nothing is protected.
That's a really good point, and I'm actually going to talk about Venezuela in just a little bit and see what the natural progression is of socialism. And, you know, on some level, protectionism. Brian Brenberg, thank you very much.
Good to be here.
Brianomics told you.